Hello, and welcome back to season 4 of the Intelligentleman podcast. I am your host, Milt Walker, and I know some of y'all have been waiting for this for a while now, and I know that it's a little overdue, but sometimes that's how life is, right? Sometimes life requires you to pay more attention to some of the things that are around you in order for you to catch the lessons and the blessings. And so, I'm grateful for my journey. I'm grateful for those who supported me and who have supported me. And I'm happy to be back for this season 4 to be able to share some of my insight and some of my travels on my spiritual journey with you all, in hopes that it will empower you to do the things that you need to do in order for you to rise to your best self as well. So, so it's been a while since episode 3. And when I look back and reflect on where I've been since when I started the podcast right before or right when the pandemic was starting. We didn't really know it was a pandemic at the time, but it was early 2020 and, everybody was getting sick. And so, hindsight being 2020, we look back and we know what it was. But at the time, didn't really know what it was. All I knew was that things were changing, right? The whole world was about to change, and we had to change the way we thought about things, right? It required us, and if you go back and listen to seasons 1, 2, and 3, starting with season 1, you can follow me on some of those journeys that I took. But at that time, it was forcing us to sit down, really observe ourselves for what we were doing, right? What were we really putting as a priority in our lives where we couldn't respond quickly to a situation like that, right? And again, you can go back and listen to it. I said all this back then, but so I'm not going to go back over it here. But when you look back and you ask yourself, what changes have you made in your life since then that prepares you for if something else happens, right? And I hope that one of the lessons that you learned was that we're all in this together, right? Everybody's well-being is tied together. If one person is sick, a million can be sick, right? So those things are very important for you to take into consideration in the decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis, right? We no longer have the luxury of just thinking about ourselves. We have to start thinking as one if we want to beat some of the patterns that we've been repeating throughout history, right? We're constantly, and now I'm going to talk to my community, we're constantly talking about how people keep us down and what, but a lot of times we're the ones keeping ourselves down because we're afraid to change. We're afraid what that means, right? Some people, they're afraid that they lose their identity. If you identify yourself with things that don't really matter, and if you lose those things, who are you? Who will you be? Will you be a person just without that? Or who will you be? And the answer is always, you have to decide that. Nobody else can decide this for you. That is your own journey, your own spiritual journey. So you have to make those decisions for yourself. Okay. So when it comes down to it, hopefully it's made you wiser. And again, I never focus on the money. So it doesn't, even though a lot of people had the opportunity to become very, very wealthy because of the lack of having to spend money for other things, right? You didn't have to go out. You didn't have to do all these things. So hopefully you use that time to build yourself up. And even if you didn't, if you use that time to build yourself up spiritually or mentally or physically, right? That's great too. That's all progress, right? But you have to make sure that that's what you're doing. You're progressing. You don't want to stay in the same place. That is not the goal. The goal is not to be comfortable where you are. It's to move on to the next great thing, right? And hopefully you're creating that, right? We have a lack of everything in our communities. So why is it that we're so, you know, why we're so confused as to what we need to do? We don't have anything in our communities, right? And you see little pieces here and there, T.I. and his investors, they built, affordable housing in their old neighborhood. And, you got people starting black banks and doing all these different things. But overall, right, we're moving towards that. So let me first say this, we are moving in the right direction. But those of you who don't really know what to do, right? There's so many different places that you can fit in. All you got to do is just plug yourself in. That's it. You got to be willing to be taught. You got to be willing to learn, right? You got to be willing to do all these things in order for you to advance and to become more of who you are and who you will be. But even before that, well, it doesn't have to be before that. Let me not say that. You can do that first. But you also need to figure out what it is that you want as a person to your core. And what I mean by that is when you strip away all of the things you've been taught, when you strip away all of the things that's been forced upon you, the lack mindset, the poverty mindset, the I'm not enough mindset, all of those things that's been forced upon you, right? That we're quick to say, okay, we're a product of this. Okay, so take that away, strip it off of you, take it off like clothes, layer by layer, take it off. What did that little boy or that little girl want to do when they were growing up that they had a dream of, right? That has been lost over time due to circumstances and all types of things. I'm not perfect. I've been through my share of circumstances and everything too, but this is why I can say this to you. Okay. So that's what you got to do. You got to figure that part out too. But don't make it a chore. It's not something it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be boring. It's meant to be exciting. It's meant to be a joyous occasion. It's meant for you to go out and explore the world, right? Go out. I mean, not even just speaking about your own neighborhood or your own city or your own state or your own country. There's a whole world out there. And some people are going further than that. Some people are thinking about what's beyond the world, right? We got people sending probes to asteroids, right? And let me just give you a little quick, because I did say for this particular season, I'm going to add some more science into this so that you can understand that all things are connected. It's all part of the same thing. It's not separate. But in space, I'm just going to touch on this for just a second. In space, the minerals that people fight wars for on this planet are plentiful. There's so much out there that we wouldn't even know what to do with it. Okay? Meaning that if we ever get the ability to mine those asteroids, which we already do technically, to mine asteroids, to go to these other, places in this, we'll just stick with the solar system. In the solar system and be able to use those resources that are there, we will never have, we will never run out of them. Okay? And I mean the precious metals too, the ones that people kill each other over, those too. They're plentiful out there. It's nothing to the universe, right? So, and I'll take it a step higher than that. It's nothing to God. If you really truly believe that God is God, then you can't believe in limitations. So that means that you can't believe in limitations for yourself. Okay. So with that being said, there's so much that you can contribute to. You can contribute to all of these things to bring humanity as a whole to a place that we've never been in history, right? Part of that is bringing us together, right? Because that's part of it. We actually have to come together to even accomplish some of these larger goals, right? So even if you were the type of person who likes to bring people together, I like to think that this podcast does this, and I've been told by my supporters and listeners that it does. And it gives you, hopefully, it gives you the mindset that it's better to work with people than to work against them. Okay, because you're only really, if you think about it, you're only really working against yourself. That's all you're doing. So, because, and I'll give you an example, and this is going to be an extreme example because I want to make an extreme point here. If everybody was killing everybody for everything, eventually there would be no people left, and therefore that we would cease to exist. Okay. So that mindset only leads to self-destruction. Okay. So it's not about trying to one up the next person. That's not what it's about. It's about figuring out how you can work with those people to build something greater than yourself. Okay. And you can do it. Everybody can do it. It's part of who we are. It's part of how we were created. So there is no question about whether or not you can do it. The question is always, are you willing to do it? Are you willing to give up the things that you need to give up in order to take on the things that you really, really need? The things that really are going to benefit you in life, right? Okay. So I just wanted to go off on that for a second because that is not the topic of this podcast, but it is connected, and you'll see that in just a second. But so, this is season 4. This is episode 1. This is the first. This is the beginning. Okay. This is another new beginning for the Intelligentleman podcast. Okay. So I'm excited about it. It's the ending of the year though, right? So it's coming to the end of the calendar year. Of course, there's different calendars. So depending on which calendar you go by, but the calendar year that we use, the solar calendar, it's about to come to an end. Okay. And so it's time for reflection, right? It's time to sit back, relax, look at the fruits of your labor, right? That's the seasons. If we take a hint from the seasons, fall is the harvest, right? It's called the harvest, right? So it means you reap what you sow. Whatever you have sown throughout the year, that is what you're about to reap. Okay. Spiritually speaking, that's always happening. It is a season, but it's always happening in every moment as well. Okay. And go back and listen to my podcast if you want to dive deeper into that. We will get into that some more in this season too, but that's not the topic of what I'm talking about right now. So this is the time to sit back, count your blessings, right, as they say, and think about where you've gone in your life in this last year, where you want to go in the next, because it's not over. Don't think about it. And I know it's hard for some people, and it's more to it, but don't think about it and get depressed and think that it's over. It's not over. Okay. It's a new beginning. Death is not the end. Okay. Death is only to make room for what's new to come. You see that in the seasons. When fall comes, everything starts to wither. Then winter comes, everything quote unquote dies. And then in the spring, everything is reborn again. Okay. This is nature. This is the way nature is. So that's the way we are as well. So don't ever think that it's the end. And I want to encourage anyone who's having mental health issues to make sure you reach out to somebody. Okay. There's a lot of resources out there. If you don't know where to look, feel free to reach out to me. I know people, one of my mentors, he's in that field. He's been in that field for a long time. And, I can put you in touch with some people. Okay. So But you have to want to do that yourself. I'm not in the habit of forcing anybody to do anything. And I've made that a way of my being, so I don't do that. But I want to offer that to you, and I want you to understand that I'm serious about this. So, I want people to really start to reflect on the decisions that you've made just in this past year. Don't go back thinking, oh, if I would have been if I would have been like this in middle school and elementary, I'd be no, we're not gonna go that far back. Okay. Every choice that you make leads you to where you are right now. If it's not somewhere you want to be, then revisit your choices. Look at your choices. Look at what you've been doing. See how you can change it, right? See how you can change it and start to manifest and bring about the things that you do want to happen in your life. Okay. That's how you do it. I mean, and people are always telling me when I'm talking to it, they say, you make it sound so simple. Yeah, but I want you to know that it is simple, but it's only simple when you're willing to do it. And that's anything. If, that's why they say, if it's something you love doing, then it's not a job. Anything that you love to do is going to be very easy for you to do it. Okay. That's just the way that the universe is set up. I didn't make it. It was here before I got here. So, we are all living with the rules of the universe. Okay. So that's just how it is, but I want to let you know, because I'm all about empowerment. I'm all about letting people know that they have a choice. No matter what situation, circumstance you're going through, you have a choice, which brings us to the topic of our podcast after 15 minutes, right? But before I go there, let me say this too. Now, I want y'all to check out the video. I did a video recently. I did a podcast. This is an offshoot called Love's Legacy with one of my great friends, Ayana Ilan. And, it was great. It was a great podcast. We were talking for about 2+ hours. We were in a relationship before in the past, and, we just wanted to share some of the insights, but we've remained friends for over 10 years. Okay. So, we just wanted to share the insight because from her perspective, and again, you need to go watch the video so you can understand. But, from her perspective, people will try to talk to her and they'll do it in certain ways. And because of her spiritual journey, she no longer allows certain things to become a part of her life. Right. And I'm the same way, and we all evolve that way. And again, if you go back and listen to my podcast topics, love, I talk about this too, about relationships and how sometimes in your relationship, it leads you due to you not being aligned with that person. And not being aligned with the person just means that you're not heading in the same direction. Okay, that's all that means. It's not a bad or good thing. We're not judging anybody. That's not what we're here for. But what it is it's letting you know that that person has something else to do and you got something else to do as well. So your pathways can split. In the case of me and Ayana, our paths did split, but we still remain connected in a friendship that was, amazing over 10 years. Okay. So make sure you go and watch that. But now to this one, finally, 20 minutes later. So the name of this episode, I wanted to start off, again, this is the beginning of season 4, right? But I wanted to start off with, what does it mean to be a good person in the 21st century, right? We're living in the 21st century, all right? We've been living in the 21st century since 2000, right? I believe, 21st century since 2000, okay? So when we look at life in general, just looking at life in general, things are totally different from what it was last century. Okay. In the 1900s, starting off with 1900 all the way up to 1999, right? Life is dramatically different. Life was dramatically different in that time frame. But just within these first 23 years of the 21st century, life has changed dramatically. And I know this. Why? Because I lived it, right? We all have. And if you observe, you can see it, right? So you see that there's been a huge shift towards science and technology. They're saying on a global scale that the new global economy is a knowledge-based economy, okay? Which means you getting paid for what you know, not for what you can do, okay? That's how you get paid. And then we're talking about countries. We're not just talking about you as an individual, even though you make up those countries. You make up the larger units. You're the smallest unit of the community, right? One person, one being. And then it goes to your family, right? And then it goes to your community. And then it goes to your city, state, country, continent, planet, right? So that's the order of operations when it comes to that. So when it comes to how you need to operate in this century, right? In the way that this century is going, okay? You need to be thinking about ways that you can, I'll touch on money first. You need to be thinking about ways that you can make money by not necessarily doing physical work, right? And notice I said make money, okay? I didn't say you can't farm, you can't do all this, but we're always going to need farms. We're always going to need trades and all those things, okay? That's never going to go away. But what those trades do, and I experienced this. I started off in the electrical construction trade myself, okay? Then I went into fire alarm systems and camera systems, okay? And that whole situation was kind of a fluke. I was looking for a job, right? I was looking for a job, and I went into this. I actually went to a place next door, and then they came out and was like, "Hey, you looking for a job?" And so I transitioned from electrical construction into fire alarm systems and camera systems. Okay, went from that into information technology. Right, started off with information technology. Doing what they call break fix, working on computers, fixing them, building them, doing all that good stuff. From that into software, right? Software, developing software. Then from that into, now solutions architecture, right? Creating solutions for people using technology, multiple different types of technology, not just one or the other. So for me, it's been a journey. Now that journey started in the early 2000s for me. Okay. My high school year was 2000. Okay. That's when I was supposed to graduate. I ended up graduating a year early because I was so far behind that I decided that I wanted to go ahead and take my place and skip ahead because I've always known that I could do it. School had become boring to me, so it made me realize, and mostly shout out to my dad because he's the one who really made me realize that it didn't really matter, unless I took the steps I needed to take for me to be successful. I used to rap, do all those kind of things, and so I look back. My dad said, he's not he never discouraged us from rapping. He just said that you need to finish school so you can have something to fall back on if you don't follow through with the rap, which I didn't. I ended up not doing that, right? Even though people, it's not like I didn't have people that like my raps, right? People actually like my raps. Even to this day, people see me and say, "You still rap?" But for me, it was a transition. I changed from what I was rapping about to a totally different person. And it was apparent in my raps. But then I decided that, well, you know what? I don't want to express this through rap. I want to actually find other things in the world that I want to do. I don't want to just do what, is the most prevalent in my community, be in the entertainment business, being in sports and all that. I wanted to go out and I wanted to do something different. And I did. I made myself different. I went into electrical construction and IT technology, right? And now there's a big push, and you see it now, but back then I saw it then. There's a big push now to get people of color into technology, right? But yeah, I mean, that's something it's been a need for us to do that for a long time. It's not brand new, right? And not to say that we haven't been, because we know that, you watched Hidden Numbers, that we've been, and that was just, that's just a readily available example. There are numerous examples of us being in history, being in technology. Okay. So, but I'm not going to get too bogged down because we'll probably do a podcast on that later next year. But when it comes to how to be a good person in the 21st century, right? What does that look like? First of all, let's define it. What does it mean to be a good person, right? Now, people who've been listening to me for these past 3 years, they know my feelings and sentiments about this, right? When we say good person, we're not judging, saying one person is better than the other. That's not what we're saying. When we say a good person, we mean becoming a better version of yourself. Okay, that's what that means. Becoming a better version of yourself. All right. So what does it mean to become a better version of yourself in this day and age, in the 21st century? Well, let's talk about it for a minute. Let's discuss this. All right. So being a better version of yourself is a day-by-day process, right? And it takes, first of all, kindness, okay? You have to be kind. We see it on social media all the time, be kind and this, and that, and the third. It's a hashtag, it's trending and all this kind of stuff. But how many people are actually embodying kindness? Okay. Meaning, are you kind? Are you kind when the cameras are not flashing? Are you kind when nobody's paying attention? When nobody sees what you're doing? Are you kind then? See, that is being kind. Okay. You can fake kindness. You can act like you kind, but you have to be kind to be a better version of yourself. And we're about to explain why, okay? Being friendly, generous, and considerate to others, right? That's the first rule of kindness. Do unto others as you would have them do unto yourself, as you would have them do unto you, okay? That is the first rule. That's the golden rule, as they say, right? So what's so golden about it? Well, because it's a direct reflection of, who you are, We're going to come back after this short break so that we can continue talking about this. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Intelligentleman Podcast, Season 4, Episode 1. Welcome back for that short break to the Intelligentleman Podcast, Season 4, Episode 1. And where we left off at was we were talking about kindness. Okay, that was the 30-minute mark. So I'm gonna start breaking these up just in case, so people can really engage and listen to these. You'll see it as one episode, but you'll be able to pause it after 30 minutes, okay? And come back to it later. If that's all you got, right? If not, then you can just listen to it, completely straight through. And I may be adding some more stuff in there. There's another reason behind that, so I may be adding some more stuff. But we left off talking about kindness, okay? And there's a few things we're going to go through by the end of this podcast just to give you an understanding. And this is the beginning. So take everything that I'm saying as a starting point, okay? I'm not telling you that you should do exactly what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm giving you a starting point for you to start thinking about these things yourself in order for you to really start to change the way you think about life, your life in particular, okay? But what affects your life affects life as a whole, okay? So that's very important. But we left off saying that being friendly, generous, and considerate to others is kindness, okay? Now let's break that down a little bit. Being friendly, generous, and considerate to others, that's being kind. If you're not doing those things, then you're not being kind, okay? We know this, right? Okay? So, and again, I'm giving you these definitions so that you can understand. Like there's established meanings to these things. It's not just, you don't just make up what you want it to be. That's not how it works. Okay. These things have been around for far longer than any of us. Okay. So these things are already established. All right. Another thing that is a fruit of kindness is being able to show empathy and compassion to other people. Okay. If you can hear somebody's story and allow yourself to feel those emotions that it's making them feel and be compassionate with them about the things that they're going through, right? Now, some people may mistake that as meaning that you have to join in pity parties and all that. That's not what that means. It just means that you don't judge anybody or condemn anybody for how they feel about something. That's not those are their feelings. They're entitled to their feelings. But as human beings, we should be willing to have a conversation with them, right? And more importantly, listen to them, okay? And be able to respond to whatever it is that they're saying, okay? Now, what does that mean? What does that do? Right? Now, earlier in the podcast, I talked about money, right? I started talking about money and how, a lot of times we put money at the beginning, and part of kindness is putting the needs of others before your own. But that doesn't mean that you have to take out of your own mouth to feed somebody else. It's okay if you do, if you do that because I know, and I hope you do know this. I know that I live in abundance and I know that it's all, everything that's for me will come to me, right? If you know that and you're willing to, I can fast while you can have something to eat because you haven't had anything to eat and you're hungry. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. But you don't take out your own mouth to feed somebody else just for show. That's what that means, right? You're not doing it to show off, to say, oh, I took it out my own mouth to give to you, okay? That's not why you're doing it. You may say that because you're hurt because of something that person did to you or whatever, and those are your feelings, but you shouldn't do it for that reason. You shouldn't do it because you want to show off that how great a person you are. Okay, that's Now you're messing with your internal composition, your internal alchemy. You're not being truthful with yourself. Okay. All right. So those are some of the things that build kindness, right? That are kindness, that is kindness. Okay. So, and again, this is the starting point. So I want you to take it further than that. I want you to go further than that. Explore that within yourself. Look at yourself and say, where have I not been kind? And not just to other people, but to yourself. Sometimes we're not even kind to ourselves, you know, and that's even more tragic. Because if you're not even kind to yourself, you can't be kind to other people. That's impossible. Because you don't even see them in the right way. Okay? You see them as something to be used. You don't see them as the people. You don't have the empathy. Okay? Respect. Okay? You got to have respect. If you want to be a better person, you got to have respect. Now, what are we talking about when we talk about respect? Okay. Well, I'm glad you asked, because we're about to talk about it. Treating others with dignity and consideration. You know, one of my mentors always says this, and I agree with him. You know, when you're being disrespectful, you're really being disrespectful to yourself. You're not really disrespecting the other person, because you're doing something that takes you out of your natural divinity, your natural being. You're taking yourself out of yourself when you disrespect other people. See, that's really how you need to look at it. But before you get there, let's just start with the surface, okay? Because that's deep. That's deep. You know, when you go deep into yourself. But let's stay on the surface so that we can understand what respect is, okay? Treating others with dignity and consideration. You don't want, again, going back to the same thing about kindness and the golden rule. See, the golden rule encompasses all of these things all at once. That's why it's the golden rule, okay? But, you know, being able to look at a person and say to yourself, I don't want anybody to treat me this way, right? So I'm not going to treat them this way, okay? Because as we know, what do they say? What goes around comes around. Karma, whatever, however you understand that concept to be, there is a cause and an effect, okay, in the universal law. So when you do something to somebody else, it's going to come back around to you in some way, shape, or form. Okay? So again, don't disrespect yourself, because it will come back to you in that way. And then you may be aware of it, and sometimes sometimes people are not aware of it, right? They're just in this cycle of and you can subscribe and pay for podcasts where I talked about the victim consciousness, and how that puts you in a state where you're constantly, it feels like things are always happening to you, right? And I was just looking at a video from Redman, one of my favorite rappers, since back in the day. Let me rephrase that. He's one of my favorite lyricists. He's a very good lyricist. I like the way he tells a story when he's rhyming. And so his video was saying him and his partner was not partner, but one of his partners, it was talking, and they were just figuring out. They said, you know what? It's true. It's true that, when we have these situations where we're feeling like something is happening to us, right? He named it as the storm. Like, you're going through a storm in your life, and you're wondering, why is this happening to me? But technically it's happening for you. It's not happening to you. See, it's trying to teach you something. So if you're going through something, sit back and think, why am I going through this? What is this teaching me? For some people, it can be, oh, I need to be better at managing my time. Sometimes it's, oh, I need to be better at, managing myself, my own emotions, my own, my own actions, So, but without getting completely, out of the topic, it's one of those things where it's something for you to learn, okay? But with respect, it's all about listening to others with an open mind as well. Okay? Meaning, don't go into it thinking that you know everything. Because if you go into a conversation thinking that there's nothing that person can teach you, you've already defeated yourself. You've already closed yourself to some universal wisdom that could be coming to you that you now you'll have to wait for. It doesn't mean that it won't ever come to you. That's not what that means. It just means that you missed it in that moment, which means there's another lesson for you to learn. So what do we call that? We call that repeating cycles. If you start repeating the same thing in your life over and over and over again, it's because it's something you need to learn. Now, I'm not talking about ups and downs of life. Ups and downs of life happen. There is nobody who doesn't do that. Even, I'm gonna use Jay-Z as an example because he's a billionaire now. But there was a time where he wrote about it in his rhyme, so it's public knowledge, where he was talking about where he bought his nephew a car and his nephew died. Okay, meaning the money doesn't determine whether or not you're gonna go through ups and downs in life. That's not what money does. Money just is a tool for you to use to help you build what it is you want in life. Okay, so those things are happen to you regardless. So don't think, and I'm saying it because that's what we tend to do. We tend to think, oh, if I have this, then I'm going to be okay. No, that's not how that works. You can still go through things and have everything that you want. You got people who do reach that level, have everything they want, and they still get depressed and they still want to end their life just for their reason. But so what does that's a lesson. So you need to learn from that. It teaches you that those things don't give you happiness, because if they did, then everybody would be happy once they had it, but they're not. Everybody's not. Okay. So those things are two so totally different things. So listening to others with an open mind allows you to be open to any guidance that comes to you divinely or terrestrially, meaning from here on earth, from the wise people, the elders who walk around with us right now. They say an elder is like 10 libraries. Okay, that's our African wisdom. Well, if that's the case, then why aren't we listening to our elders? Why aren't we listening to them with an open mind? Not listening to them saying, oh, y'all don't know what y'all talking about. Y'all old. Why aren't we listening to them and saying, how can I apply this wisdom in the 21st century? How can I use this to guide me into what I want? What is that? That's respecting your elders. That's respecting our past, right? Our ancestors, while still respecting ourselves in the current in the current time, right? So it's all about respect. But you have to understand it first in order for you to get to the point where you can use it. It's just like a tool. If I gave you a tool but didn't teach you how to use it, then guess what? You ain't gonna make no money with that tool. You ain't gonna make no money until you learn how to use it. That's with anything. That's any knowledge, okay? And going back to the knowledge-based economy, if you really want to make some money, then you need to know something. Don't just, you got to know something. Otherwise, people who do know something, you're going to be making them money. Okay. Understanding their perspectives, right? If you want to respect someone, you need to understand their perspective. Oh, you know what? I see why that's important to you. I understand that. I respect that. You know what I mean? That's cool, right? All of that is part of respect, right? It's a mutual thing. It's a mutual sharing. of existence, of life. You're saying to that person, I know you exist. I know that you're a part of me. Okay. So I'm going to respect you just like I respect myself. Okay. That's true respect. All right. Honesty. This is a big topic because, and we got about 15 minutes left. So, this is a big topic. All right. Honesty. Because it's not just about being honest with other people. It's about being honest with yourself. But I'm going to talk about 3 ways of being honest. Being truthful and sincere in your interactions. When you interact with people, are you being truthful? Are you saying things that's true? Are you really saying how you feel? Or are you avoiding the truth to be deceptive and manipulative, right? Because the truth may not be on your side, quote unquote, right? So that's what a lot of people do sometimes. They lie, they cheat, because the truth is not on their side. Because if the truth was on your side, then you don't have to do those things. You can live your life and you don't have to worry about none of that. And to be honest, it's one less thing that we need to be worried about, because we got so many other things to be worried about that we don't need to be worried about whether or not we can tell the truth or not. That's so basic, okay? That's a basic thing. You learn that as a child. It's better for you to tell the truth than for you to lie. We ain't talking about the law, and we ain't talking about all that, deep. We're talking about on a foundational level, okay? It's better for you to tell the truth than it is for you to lie, okay? Period. So if you can't be truthful in your interactions and in your conversation, then that's an opportunity, because it's all a lesson. It's all for you to learn and to grow. That's an opportunity for you to look at yourself and say, why am I keeping myself a prisoner of my own making? I can't even do what I want to do. Why? Because I can't tell the truth. And if you told the truth, would you be able to do everything that you want to do? Of course not. But as God says, if He gave you everything that your heart desired, you would harm yourself with it. You wouldn't use it in the right way, because it's not about having it. That doesn't make you wise. Having it doesn't make you wise. The wisdom comes before. Technically, the wisdom is supposed to come before having it. That's why most in history, if we look at the statistically, most people don't get rich until they're a certain age. That's why. Because the wisdom to handle that money is really supposed to come first. And people who got the money early in their age, the majority, not every one of them, okay? And I'm happy to see that there's a lot more young people today that are using their money wisely. But the majority of them lose the money. Why? Because you weren't wise enough to know how to keep it. See? And it's not about keeping it like I'm hoarding it and I'm just trying to save every dime, because you're going to spend. That's what money is for. It's for you to spend it. It's not for you to save it. It's not going to do anything, just saving it. Even if you save it and it's making money, if you never spend it, it's never doing anything for you. You see what I'm saying? So the point of money is to spend it, but you want to spend it wisely. You want to spend, what are some of the tenets of spending money wisely? It's spending it slower than you make it, first of all, which may mean, hey, I need to get rid of some of those habits, those Netflix subscriptions and Spotify and all the extra stuff I need to get rid of until I'm making more money to where those things don't really affect me and I can still do the things that I need to do. Okay. That's being honest with yourself. Okay, you have to be honest with yourself. You got to know where you are. First of all, you got to know yourself. You got to know yourself first, obviously. But if you know where you are in life, and you say, but yet and still, you're still making decisions that are not going to be beneficial to you a year from now, okay? Then what are you doing? Okay, what are you doing? Ask yourself that. It's not about, don't tell me. I'm not asking you so that you can tell me because I'm trying to, no, skip all that. Ask yourself that and answer yourself truthfully, honestly, without the deception. Don't lie to yourself. You're only hurting yourself, okay? Being truthful and sincere in your interactions, even with yourself. Avoid deception and manipulation. Avoid it like the plague. Avoid it like we was avoiding COVID-19, okay? Avoid it just like that. You should be avoiding lies the same exact way because it is a plague to you. It's only going to corrode your spirit. That's all it does. It doesn't do anything beneficial for you, okay? Our ancestry, where we came from, we didn't have to lie, okay? We were sovereign. We are sovereign, okay? So you don't have to lie. That's not the prerequisite of being successful, okay? You don't have to lie, all right? Even though some people they become successful, but that's just God puts that the way he said that the likeness of a man becoming successful off of his lies is like a man building a house on sand. It cannot stand. So those are God's words. So it's got to be true. So what is he telling you? He's telling you, don't build your house on something that can crumble apart at any time. Because if you do that, you're only reaping what you sowed. You're only getting what you put out there. You can't blame nobody for that. So ain't no going off on nobody. You need to be looking at yourself, dealing with others in a fair and ethical manner. Okay? You got to be fair and ethical in your personal, professional, business dealings. Okay? That's how you become successful. When people know that they can trust you, when people know that you're gonna, when you say something, you're gonna do it. When you know, and we're not talking about, you know, when things go wrong, you just can't do something. That's fine. Life happens. We know about the ups and downs, but you should be truthful about that. Okay. See, part of that is having the courage to say, you know what, it didn't work out the way that I wanted to. So I need to change some things up. So I'm coming up with a plan on how to do that. Boom. That's honesty with yourself in your dealings with other people. And that's fair and that's ethical. And anybody who thinks the same is going to see that. And they're going to say, and you know what? They're going to respect you even more because you did that. And not only that, you may have just opened a door that you didn't even know was there. And they may, you know what? I got something that can help you. I'm glad you told me this, right? I've been in this situation numerous times. Hey, I'm glad you said something because somebody was just telling me about, I'll go back to jobs, times when I was doing jobs and stuff like, I know somebody who's hiring right now that can, get you a job. You never know. But as long as you just out there, just, I don't know, not being honest with yourself, then, you're not gonna experience those levels of connection with people. It's always going to be superficial. It's always going to be shallow. It's always going to be transactional based, meaning I get something for you and you get something for me. And when that's done, it's over. Okay. Now, next thing I want to talk about, the last thing I want to talk about in this last 5 minutes that we got is responsibility. Okay. Now, we talked about it a little bit throughout the whole podcast. Now we're going to wrap it up using that, saying you have to take ownership of your own actions and choices. Don't blame nobody for your actions and your choices. That's part of being honest with yourself as well, right? You can sit back You're in a victim consciousness when you're sitting back and you're blaming everything and everybody else for choices and things that you did. You can't do that. You know what I'm saying? That's not sovereign. That's not you being the best version of yourself. Okay? Being accountable for your mistakes. If you make a mistake, hey, look, I messed up. I do want to make it right. I understand, and I always preach this to people. People don't have to forgive you, okay? It's not required for them to forgive you just because you say you're sorry, all right? Meaning, if you mess up a relationship with somebody, you may have messed that up for the rest of your life. So be wise in the way that you interact with other people, because you never know. That person could have been something to you, something of a blessing to you that you never would have known, and you never will know now because you chose to do the opposite. Be accountable for your mistakes. If you make a mistake, say, hey, look, I messed up. If they decide to forgive you, great. Make up for it and change your behavior. Okay. But if they don't forgive you, still make up for it and still change your behavior. Why? Because that is taking responsibility for yourself. That is for you. It's not just for other people. You're not just doing it for them. You're doing it to save your own soul, to cleanse what you have tarnished within yourself by not being who you should be. That's what you're doing. So you need to do the work. Okay. You need to do the work, period. Ain't no getting around it. Okay. You got to do the work. Do the work for yourself, and it will, if you plant the seed and you do the work, you will reap the fruit, and you'll be okay. Even if you just learn from the lesson and you're able to treat other people better later, you know what I'm saying? That's building. That's one brick on top of another. Okay. You're still going forward. You're still moving up. All right. Work to make things right. I was just talking about that. I just brought this up. Yes, I'm reading this because I came up with a script to make sure that I said everything that I wanted to say. Because I know I go off sometimes, but working to make things right. And it's not just in the sense of when you make a mistake, for yourself, but I'll give you an example, like global warming, right? The way we've been treating this planet. If we made a mistake, okay, we didn't really know that this was hurting the planet, so let's change the way we do stuff, okay? Stop trying to hold on to these old concepts about how things work when science is telling you that that's not true. Meaning, we've already found out that this does this, okay? So now we need to act on what we know, not what we think, not what we used to do. That is over. We need to have a more scientific mind when it comes to that, okay? And working to make things right is a big part of that, okay? It's a big part of that. It's all about taking ownership, moving forward, okay? Now, but to do that, you gotta have courage, okay? You gotta have courage to take that responsibility and fight for what is right. Stand up for your beliefs, even when it's difficult. Even when it's difficult for you to do it, you need to stand up for it. Speak out against the injustice, okay? Speak out against any type of injustice that's happening to you or to others. Be mindful, be mindful. Be mindful of, what's going on around you, how it affects other people. Make the changes that you need to do to your lifestyle and to your diet. Okay. And support the community, support local businesses, support people who are trying to do good things, who are trying to be good neighbors, and volunteer in your community. It's so much that you can do that you don't have to just settle for less. You can be more. And with that being said, this has been the Intelligentleman, and this has been my podcast, and I love y'all.